Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for going to get started. I'm going to call this meeting to order. And I'd like to remind everyone that if you're not signed in, you have to please do so we can keep an accurate record of everybody that has attended the management conference meeting. We're here in one of my favorite cities of Morgan City. It's a beautiful area right in the Atchafalaya Basin, and I think we've got a lot of great talks coming up to help us find in this area. But first, we need to approve our agenda. So I'd like to remind you, please state your name if you want to make a motion to approve the agenda. Mark, Carson first, second to Christie. Thank you. All right, and we've got the minutes in front of us. Are they getting sent to us from the May 14th meeting? And motion to approve the minutes. Dwayne Bourgeois says yes. Second. Christie Lane says second. All right, thank you, Christie. I'm going to go ahead and skip my remarks and go over the old business and announcements. The old business to discuss. Okay. New business, I'm going to turn it over to our director, Mr. Brent Haas.
Thank you, Dr. Fano. Appreciate that. Is there a clicker at the front? Grab. Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you all for being here. It's a great turnout. It's good to be here in Morgan City, part of the estuary where we haven't been sometime. So, again, nice to see everybody's faces here today, and good to be branching out into locations in the estuary. So, I'm happy to be here talking a little bit about what's been going on over the last summer, the last quarter since we got last May, and talk a little bit about the things that will be coming up. First and foremost, I want to make folks aware that time flies, and it seems like just yesterday we were talking about the fiscal year 27 solicitation time frame. We are embarking on this again for next fiscal year, so it's a little difficult to see the dates up there, but just know that essentially we'll be following the same process we did last year. We're asking folks for ideas for projects to help preserve and support the estuary in the upcoming year. So just a couple things to note here. Please be aware that your action plan team members or leaders, will be reaching out to you shortly if you haven't already to talk about any of your ideas for focus areas for this upcoming solicitation. In some cases, that may include a webinar like we had last year, but may just be email or phone communications as well. But the key dates here to remember are that October 1st, we'll open up the solicitation. That will be open through the end of November. And then moving into the end of this year, the beginning of next year, we'll begin to make selections through the same process we had in the action plan meeting, evaluating projects, of course, then that's evaluating those projects, hopefully making selections with a recommendation back to you all for your work plan in May of next year. So excited to get this process underway again. I would note that this year there will be no IJA funds available, so we'll be working back kind of with our restored base funding or our Section 320 funding as we did for years. So, it's been a busy summer, as I mentioned. We had a number of workshops that we participated in or sponsored this summer. We had 30 teachers participate in 2 of those workshops. One was in New Roads, it's called Changing Courts, River of Science and People. The top of that is right now was the Great Flood of 1927. So we had 15 teachers participated in that from throughout the estuary, even outside the estuary. 2 of those were from right here in St. Mary Parish. A teacher from Wyandotte Elementary School and also one from Chipmunk Tribal School were participants in that workshop. That was during a period of time, I can tell you, when we were getting significant rain, and they had to brave a lot of that rain to get that taken care of. But it was great success, and happy to have those teachers participate in that. That was facilitated by Louisiana Sea Grant and by UCM. So it was a good partnership among those 3 entities. In addition to that, workshop occurred this summer. This is hosted by the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries. It's an opportunity for teachers, or 15 teachers as well, that participated in that this summer, that went to Grand Isle to learn about our coastal ecosystems and their estuary, and about environmental education there as well. Number of staff participated in several camps this summer. In addition to those workshops that I just mentioned, so Swamp Camp was one of those. That took place at the South Louisiana Wilderness Discovery Center. Of course, Swamp Camp has been long supported and funded through BTNEP through our work plans. We participated in Swamp School at St. Charles Parish and Cajun Camp at the Bayou Country Children's Museum. And there's a new estuary exhibit at the Children's Museum. The middle picture there you see was for the opening of that, which just took place a couple of weeks ago. So great facility. You see the leaders of our critter crew there hanging in the background. That's Claude and Claudette. Those are nice displays and great educational presentation of our estuary and the bayous for sure. The museum, if you got visited, is fantastic. I would encourage everybody to get by to check that out as well. And then Marine Debris, we talked about this a good bit, but the numbers are in from our bayou cleanup, which was held back in April. We and our partners collected over almost 16 tons of trash. We're going to expand that event this year, as I mentioned before, from not just Assumption, but Watershed and Terrebonne Parish. And I believe that's as much trash as we collected, certainly in the recent past. In addition to that, our green team's been very busy at Elmer's Island, helping to clean the beach there. Marine Debris, they've collected about 7 tons of trash this summer already. So we're well on pace to break a record that was set last year in terms of the amount of marine debris and trash that will have been picked up. So we have a number of other activities that have been going on, of course, this quarter. You see there, back in May, we held a pollinator plant event, at which we were able to distribute almost 1,300 pollinator plants. These went to individuals mostly for small backyard pollinator habitats to support things like bees, butterflies, moths, and birds as well. Our migratory bird program has been certainly busy this summer, tracking purple martins, grasshopper sparrows, swallowtail kites, and red knots among just to name a few. Just to give you an idea of some of the numbers associated with this program. I'll talk a little bit more about purple martins, talk about that a fair bit. But just this summer, as hopefully you all are aware, we've got 4 or 5 different habitats throughout the estuary, one in New Rose, one in Platinum, and one in Thibodeau, at Cajun, and a couple in Grand Isle as well, more than 4. But nonetheless, if you look at the numbers associated with those habitats, those nesting structures this year, 338 eggs were laid, 243 chicks were hatched, and almost 200 of those fledged this year. This involved 44 volunteers that helped to monitor and collect data at these sites. One Naval Station University intern was there, participated as 77 birds and 212 fecal blood or feather samples were taken from these structures as well. So, and one bird was actually fitted with a GPS tracking device to see where they go. So certainly busy there as it relates to those plants and birds. And then of course the home inspections for home and sewage treatment plants continues to go on. They're underway in Bayou Falls Watershed. We're partnering with Bayou District Water District to help conduct these inspections, and also South Central Planning and Development Commission, as well as some of our DUD funding in the upper Barataria-Terrebonne watershed as well. So that's ongoing right now. One of the things that are happening right here in the backyard of Morgan City, we've got 16 proprietary warbler nest boxes that are deployed in Brownell Memorial Park. That is a limiting factor for the success of the species. So having those there not only attracts a beautiful bird that area, people will be able to see, so provides critical habitat. We've got another project that has just kicked off in the Lake Barrett Basin, in addition to the Lake Bluff Basin. That's looking at the disappearance and the sort of ephemeral diversified vegetation or grass, water grasses in those lakes and some basin. Some people wonder how we select our projects, how they get selected. I talked about the process earlier. This project was interesting. We had 2 people independently, just citizens of the estuary, talked to me and some of our staff about the fact that they were having trouble catching grass shrimp, which they used to catch salmon. Or in the case of Lake Bluff, numbers are down, and large grass numbers are down there as well. And they were attributing that, of course, to the lack of water vegetation in these latent water bodies. And so the question becomes, why is vegetation gone away? That sort of spark of a inquiry or question among our staff, again, it's got to be discussed within the action plan teams, and ultimately a project was developed to try to investigate some of the causes of that. Ultimately, hopefully, to improve management around these areas that can help bring some of that grass back to these water bodies. And then something we'll know a little bit more about today, but we're happy that we're kicking off a project with the heart of the Atchafalaya Museum. We'll be providing digital kiosks for around the property there. The kiosks will be in French and English, and we'll discuss ecosystem habitats around that around the park. So there will be a web component associated with this as well, so you can get a QR code and get that information on your phones and whatnot. So this is an exciting project that we're happy to be doing right here in our backyard where we're sitting right now. A couple other things you'll note: we've got both St. Mary Parish and Assumption Parish, part of our award-winning storm drain drill program. So there are two here at Morgan City, one at the Petroleum Festival office and one at Orange Park, and then another one, another two at Pierre Park at Veterans Park. Pierre Park at Veterans Park. Let's say that 3 times quickly. So National Estuary Week will be coming up not too long from now, September 17th to the 24th. In celebration of that, we're encouraging folks to visit the estuary, to explore the estuary through literature. And so you see a few examples of that there. We'll have a reading list of some recommended books. These are books that are either written by folks who are natives of the estuary, or they're taking place within the estuary. They're books for all reading levels, young children, middle-aged children, of course, third readers, middle-aged, middle grade children, young adults, and adults. Fiction and nonfiction will be a wide variety of books associated with estuary themes. And we encourage everybody to participate in that. For more information for the reading list, keep your eyes posted. Check out our social media. You'll be able to see those in the coming days as we approach National Estuary Week. Happy to announce we have selected the site for our next paddle event. So the paddle of the estuary will be just up the road by Pierre Park. Excited to be there. We will embark from Veterans Park there, do about a 9 or 10 mile loop around the Pierre Park area, and then we'll end up, of course, back at the park. We will have an after party there following the event. So there'll be food, there'll be music. You'll note this is on Halloween, so there may be some Halloween antics as well involved in this. But excited to be at Pierre Park and excited to be in this beautiful part of the estuary happening on October 31st. So mark your calendars and monitor our social media for updates associated with that. Just a few other upcoming events, and I'll wrap it up. We'll be back here in St. Mary not too long from now. We'll be Critter Crew, Claudette, as I mentioned earlier, as well as many of their friends, Lafite, and so forth. We'll be at the Berwick Library on September 2nd, and then on September 3rd, we'll have a presentation for the Morgan City Rotary Club. So looking forward to that. On Fridays, as usual, we'll see the dates there, September 4th, October 2nd, November 6th, December 4th. International Postal Cleanup will be in the middle of September, and the 19th will be with a large group of folks, typically a large group of volunteers at Ellis Island, participating in that cleanup event. Mentioned National Estuary Week already. White Moon Gala is coming up October 6th. There'll be some more about that later on in the presentation today. Mentioned paddle, and then of course our next two national meetings will be on November 5th and February 11th. And so November 5th is not the second Thursday of the month, so just note that that's not a regular date. If you track it that way, November 5th, there were a number of conflicts, so we're going to do that. We'll be at New Roads. Excited to be in the upper reaches of the estuary, again in a place where we haven't been at some time. We'll be back on Nichols Chambers February. I should have mentioned when I was talking about the solicitation process that just note that EPA has expressed to us that they would like for us to shift that schedule to the left a bit. I don't know that that's going to happen this year. We're going to basically the schedule that I provided today. There may be some adjustments to that schedule next year. I don't know that for sure yet, but I did want to put it out there so folks could be thinking about that and perhaps planning ahead for that. So much more to come on that, of course, as we get into next year through this cycle. So, this, theme of ours here lately has been, let's be estuary sport. That's one of the reasons we're moving the national conference around throughout the estuary. And certainly, if we're in many places, we like to let folks know that there are plenty of things to do in places like Morgan City. So you see some of those listed here. Mr. Charlie Rick Museum here in Morgan City, Brownell Memorial Park, are next to that. It's a beautiful place. The Bell Tower also have our planetary warbler nest boxes over there, so you'll probably see some of those. The Great Wall here in Morgan City is a neat place to visit. The Waddell Williams, of course, Aviation Cypress Sawmill Museum is a fantastic museum. It's just across the river in Patterson. If you haven't seen that, Lake End Park, in addition to Lighthouse Park, of course, is where we're. But these are some points of interest. I'd also encourage you to get by the Cajun Coast Welcome Center, which has lots of information about these locations and others around the estuary. What things to do here in the vicinity of Morgan City, St. Mary Parish. So I believe that's it for me. Happy to take any questions if anybody has them. If not, I will turn it back over to Dr. Palmer.
Any questions? All right, great. I just want to make a quick comment. You know, when we're sitting here watching all the things in the estuary that has been involved in, that was just the last quarter. And thinking about all the stuff we do throughout the year. And this is a quasi-government agency that really, really facilitates the community getting involved into restoration, getting involved in outdoors. And I really want to thank you guys for the effort y'all have been putting together, because the community is engaged with BTNEP, and BTNEP provides a lot of opportunity for that. I just want to make sure that everybody understands that. Okay, up next is our foundation report. Dr. Darrel Rivere.
Thanks, Dr. Brocato. As Fitness Man, Carrie, and I'm serving as the president of the Barataria-Terrebonne Estuary Foundation. And I did want to just think back about the last time we were in Morgan City and we had that Fête d'Ecologie. It was the last one at Acadian Park. I remember the Castanet King made a trip around here, and Andrew was flint napping, and a lot of the people in the room who were all here in those days. And that was an educational event. There's a whole lot of education that goes on, of course, but there's also a fellowship component to that. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. That is a way that we continue to kind of nurture fellowship within the room and in the estuary. And it also comes up at this time of year that we do think of storms, right? And you know, like when Katrina hit in 2005, oh, that was a hard year. And you kind of think back in 2004, you think, we didn't know how good we had it in 2004. We should have been partying a little bit more, maybe. Same thing after Ida in 2021. You think, God, I guess 2020, I didn't realize it then. I didn't realize how good that year was, but that was a good year, 2020, before we got hit. And maybe you can think about that now. Every now and then, it's a good idea to celebrate what we have, even though it doesn't seem so obvious. We're doing good right now. We're in kind of a recovery period. And so one way that we can do that is with the White Week Gala. The White Week Gala is coming up on October 6th. That's a little later than usual. It's going to be a little bit cooler. We have these cards here, and this year a lot of this is going to be being organized by two interns that the Estuary Foundation has acquired this year. I want y'all to stand up. Okay, stay standing a little while. That's Michaela Gordon, raising hand. That's Michaela and Camelia Moody. And they might be in touch with you if you're interested in donating something for the White Week Gala, or you have some questions about the White Week Gala. Our interns are ready to answer those questions. Okay, thanks for that. But, you know, if you want to donate something or talk to somebody about the White Week Gala, you can always talk to Nicole, too. Right? You can still call the BTNEP office, but this year we're going to have a bigger event, so we have some help from our interns. And one of the things that I wanted to remind you about is that one of the ways that we get this done is with sponsors. And so today our interns have these cards for you to take back. It's kind of a save the date card, but you can also think about being a sponsor. We're looking for one big sponsor that's going to be called our presenting sponsor, and that's a $5,000 donation. Get a whole lot of recognition for that. But then we also have platinum sponsors, gold sponsors, silver sponsors, and bronze sponsors, and at all of those different levels, you get some recognition. And I already saw a check written out today from one of our platinum sponsors We only have 2 of those available, so if you want to be a platinum sponsor, the race is on. These are limited sponsorships. Yeah, we'll still take the money if we have to. Thanks. And then some of y'all are saying, well, yeah, I want to be a sponsor. I just want to know how much a ticket is. And just like last year, a single ticket is $75. For a couple, it's 140. So we want you to be thinking about bringing some family, friends to this event. This year it's going to be at the Danos headquarters. Now you might be thinking, I don't know where that is. The Danos headquarters is not near Spars. It's over there, very close to the gravesite of Henry Schuyler Thibodeau. Yeah, and pretty close to the giant boots of home, the giant white boots. So that kind of makes sense. You can take a picture by the giant white boots on your way to Danos headquarters. It's going to be a beautiful spot. And some of y'all might say, but what about Spars? Are they helping us out? And Spars has benefited there. And just like in past years, Spars presents items that they never have on their menu. So these are double secret, specially made items. So it's a pretty awesome night of fellowship, and we make money for the estuary, and it's a great reason to get together. So that's October 6th. So this is my final reminder. It's time for you to clean off your white boots. If your boots are dirty, you might want to clean them off. If they're brand new, you might want to get them a little dirty. There's nothing worse than really, really, really white. Okay, that's it from the Estuary Foundation. Thanks for y'all's support. We hope to see you on October 6th. Lowlander, got a question? Chris? Yeah.
Besides all the awesome things that people are going to donate to this auction, how else can they support the Estuary Foundation Fund throughout the year?
Yeah, Estuary Foundation is always available to take money. I appreciate you saying that. You can contact us these days. We even have a new email, contact@btnep@gmail.com. Right? We have an office in the Coastal Center these days because I have an office there, so you can talk to me there. But you can always talk to Nicole. That's a good person to understand. Even though Nicole's at BTNEP, she will answer questions about BTNEP as well. Can't wait to see you on October 6th. Thanks, Dr. Fondo.
Thank you, Gary. You guys are doing really good stuff. I want to turn it over now to Brandon to introduce our first speaker for the day.
Thank you, Dr. Fuller and Dr. Fondo. We are happy to be joined here today by City Cutrera. So one of the lifebloods, not just the estuary, but certainly the sea, is the river. It's just a couple of stone throws where we're sitting right here today. And Cindy works for the port, and is happy to talk with us today a little bit about their operations, what they do, and their importance to the region. Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you. First, I want to say, Dr. LaFleur, that was a great event at Lake Inn Park. Would love to see something like that again in our area. And thank you, everyone, for coming to Morgan City today. Thank you for having the Port of Morgan City come in to give you an update. Our executive director, Mac Wade, was supposed to be here, but we have a meeting going on right now, and so he wasn't sure, so we have me instead. As economic development manager for the port, I like to tell everyone about the port, about the Atchafalaya River, and I like to promote economic development in the area. So today I'm going to tell you a little bit about our port operations, the activity that's going on at our terminal, some of the improvements and expansions that we're doing. I'm going to tell you about area industry and how they're contributing to the safety and economic security for our nation. A little bit about channel maintenance that's supporting our industry. And our main focus has been navigation because we need the channel to keep industry alive. However, we do promote beneficial use of dredge material, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what's going on with that. So you see in the picture, the upper left is a photo of our dock. It's the Port Morgan City Marine Terminal Facility located at 800 Youngs Road, or GIWW mile marker 95. So the photo you see is where we were doing some crane lifts The changes of spud configuration for the Weeks Dredge Captain Frank. Over the past few years, we've improved and expanded rail into the facility, as well as our east dock and laydown areas to assist in the movement of goods. Those projects were partially funded by Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development. Our rail stays really busy. We've had steel delivered by rail going to local fabrication and shipyards. Rock has been delivered by barge to the Bayrite processing plant that's right next to our terminal. And that crushed Bayrite then comes back to the terminal, put on rail cars, and is delivered to oil and gas production sites inland. We also have chemicals that come in for oil and gas related activities. They're delivered on our rail and then trucked to Port Fourchon. So the other pictures on here, we're really proud of our new equipment that we have at the dock. We have a 275-ton Manitowoc crane, which was delivered this past December. And then we just this week had a 55,000-pound Taylor forklift delivered. Those were both funded through the U.S. Maritime Administration, United States Marine Highway Program. We have a really good grant writer at the port. So this is a rendering of our west dock. It's a $30 million expansion, partially funded by the state of Louisiana and the United States Port Infrastructure Development Program. And that was the meeting that we had this morning that was scheduled. So that bid opening is taking place probably right now. That's why Matt couldn't be with you. We're going to be going from 800 feet of waterfront to approximately 1,900 feet and about 35 acres to lay down and storage. We're a small operation, but in a really strategic location. A little bit about area industry. So we have the area industry contributes to the safety and economic security of the nation. I'm going to mention just a few things that are going on here. If you see in the photo to the left, that's a vessel that belongs to SpaceX that's being worked on at a local shipyard. The upper right is Rocket Lab Ocean Landing Platform. And we also have the United Launch Alliance rocket carrier. That's all going on at our shipyards locally. And then we have government contracts. So what you see here on the left is called a YRBM. It's being done for the U.S. Navy. So it's a yard repair, berthing, and messing barge. They've built several of them here, and they are sent all over the world. Those are being used by the Navy when their vessels are at in the shipyard. This is where they eat, they sleep, they conduct business on these YRBMs. Those are happening at Conrad shipyards. Also, oceaneering, if you see in the upper right, that is a Freedom autonomous underwater vehicle. Almost as bad, Brent, to try to say. But this is being built at Oceaneering. They have a multi-million-dollar contract by the Defense Innovation Unit of the Department of Defense. And they're also going to be establishing onshore remote operations for the U.S. Navy. And then they have energy. So the picture on the left is Performance Contractors Assembly Yard out in Amelia, or actually by Buff. And they're assembling modules for Venture Global, the LNG facility in Plaquemines Parish, and the CP2 LNG Cameron Parish. Those are, and they have expanded like every piece of available land out in that area. They have components that they're storing to be able to put those together to send off. Also, for the oil and gas industry, we're still supporting that. So on the lower right is a barge that's being loaded out at Intermore. They're doing anchoring systems for offshore energy, both in the Gulf of America and overseas. The top right is Mars Gibson facility. They have they're a barge dismantler, and they do offshore decommissioning. That picture is of the Uncle John semi-sub that is 187 feet wide, 260 feet long. They also have if you drive out past Gibson, I'm not sure if they've started on it yet, but they have the Rikers Island prison barge that's waiting to be taken apart. And then also back in 2019, when the motor vessel Golden Ray capsized near Port Brunswick, Georgia, the Golden Ray was cut into sections. It was a huge car carrier. That was cut into sections and transported to Morris Gibson facility for them to continue to break that apart. So one more. You probably all heard about Ceramic by now. They're expanding at their facility in Franklin. What you see in this photo is their Marauder medium unmanned surface vessel. It was arriving at the port of Morgan City because we were their home base for the sea trials. Those vessels are engineered to operate independently for extended periods far from shore, and it represents advanced capabilities being developed in St. Mary Parish, capable of deploying to missions anywhere in the world. So, industry here is happening because of the channel being well maintained. The Atchafalaya River by its Buck, Black, and Shane federally authorized channel is authorized to 20 feet deep, 400 feet wide. We have the special built dredge Aralac that's managing fluff in the bar channel. It pumps the lighter silts and clays known as fluff back into the water to be carried out to sea by river currents, a concept known as dredging with nature. So from January of 2020 to June of 26, they have actually pumped 462 million yards of material. Now, it's not like a regular dredge that takes it and delivers it out onto land or whatever, or to make land, because the material it has to be contained and drained and so on to be able to form land. So they find the best thing is to let the river currents take it out. So we're not handling that much material as far as building land with it, but it is being taken out to sea. And so, all of the channel maintenance, it only takes one extended period of high water or a hurricane to cause detrimental things for the navigation industry. So, like with Hurricane Francine, sat on top of Morgan City for hours. So our pre-storm depth in the channel was about 22 feet. Post-storm, when they did the next survey, was 10 feet. We're very fortunate that we had funding available, that we were going to dredge another segment of the channel. They kind of moved the money around for us, and we were able to get that dredged and back to business. But that's how quickly things happened. So now we talk about beneficial use. And if y'all have seen, if you've been to all of the prior conference meetings, we did a presentation in 2021. These photos, we did show everyone then, but we really like the photos. They're some of our favorites, so I'm showing them again. So our material that's dredged in the rest of the channel goes into approved disposal sites, and new habitats are created in many areas, giving us protection from storms and other recreational opportunities. In the Horseshoe, during early 2019 and early 2000, this was the material was dredged there. The two photos on the right show the dredge Alaska in March of 21, and when they pumped 200,000 cubic yards of material at the Horseshoe. So since 2002, Corps of Engineers has been strategically placing the dredge material upstream of Horseshoe Bend, and it flows with the river current into a natural sandbar. So again, kind of like they're considering this dredging with nature. And the island's growing and supporting diverse plants and animals and a mixture of habitats in that area. The next area, you've seen some of these photos as well if you've attended the meeting, but, mile 142, which is just below Crew Boat Cut, we switched the channel over in, 2014, and it began to show like below Crew Boat Cut. So now mile 142 is affected. It's probably really hard to see these photos here, but, you will see that we had material just above the water in May of 2016, and about 500,000 cubic yards was removed from the river and created 5 new acres. By July 8th, vegetation was growing. So from May to July, we already had vegetation growing. And then on the right, you see mile 142 in August of 2019, where some more material was added. When you go back to August 2020, you see all of the vegetation that's growing. It's not from white boots or planting or anything. It's just natural with that river sediment. One more photo from the past. That's just the Atchafalaya Delta Wildlife Management Area Camp. And you can see on the upper right when dredging was completed in 2019. And then when they went back a year later, if you look at that same area, you'll see all of the green in that area as well. So I asked the Corps to give me some updates on beneficial use. And so I'll just give you I think I'm taking a little time. I'm going to give you the most current information, which was from 2020 to 2025. There were 3 dredging events in Crew Boat Cut, and we had 800,000 cubic yards, over 800,000 that were beneficially used. The 5-year change in that island acreage was 65 acres, so it brought the horseshoe area up to 180 total acres. And then the Atchafalaya Bay and Bar, again, we had 19.3 million cubic yards removed between 2020 and 2025. The 5-year change there was over 2,200 acres, and with a total of over 12,000 acres in the peninsula area, and 16 bird islands, which were about 1,100 total acres. So it keeps growing. We use the material, it's growing, it's creating habitat, it's creating protection from storms, and so on. So this was the heading in an article in the 2025 edition, Winter of Louisiana Conservationists. So as large islands were created on the west side of the channel, they grew, they filled, and they produced vegetation. So in the beginning, they're good for nesting for birds, and then once that vegetation appears, then the birds can no longer nest there. It's not suitable for them. So the Corps of Engineers and Wildlife and Fisheries worked to create what they call the temple mounds with dredge material on the east side of the channel. So that allowed water to flow, currents to flow. Some of the islands disappeared a bit. They added to them, but what it did was maintain a good ground for the bird population. So I have, and I'm going to send Brent, I didn't have an opportunity to give you the links, but there's a Atchafalaya Delta Wildlife Management Area Temple Mound Bird Survey that was done, as well as this article in the magazine and for the Louisiana Conservationists. I'm going to send him those links in case anybody's interested if you haven't seen it already. It's some pretty cool stuff. So I'll send them the links in case anybody wants them. My last photo is just the bird habitat that, those are photos from one of the studies that I just talked about, where it shows the adult birds, and what that habitat should look like. So in closing, industry is providing us safety and economic security for the nation, with about over $1 billion estimated annually in aerospace, government contracts, autonomous vessels, LNG, oil and gas. So through our partnership with the Corps, having the channel dredged to its federally authorized width and depth and adequate funding to do that, and the use of our special built dredge, industry is supported and they stay. As Brent knows from his days with CPRA, we do anything and everything to maintain that navigation and promote beneficial use. So we're going to talk to anybody that will listen to us about using the Atchafalaya River sediment to be able to do some beneficial use with it, create some more land, protect us from hurricanes. So this is all critical for our dock operations, to allow our area industry to thrive, to protect our citizens and our infrastructure from storms, to create habitat for the plants, the birds, the animals, and continue to provide recreational opportunities to continue our culture and way of life. I want to thank you again for the opportunity to speak to everyone. If you have any questions, I can try to answer. If it's about birds, there's a lady in the back somewhere that I'm told is the, yeah, she knows all about birds. I know. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Do you have any questions for her? Comments? Okay, great presentation.
Thank you.
All right, our next speaker is Michael Brocato from the St. Mary Levee District, and he's going to talk to us about flood protection in St. Mary Parish.
Good morning, and first off, thank you for being here. I don't know much about BTNEP, heard about it, but just seeing the presentation this morning, it looks like you'll do some. Definitely like to see you more. As I said, my name is Michael Brocato Jr. I'm the Executive Director of St. Mary Levee District. I've held that position for only 1 year, but I've been involved with St. Mary Levee District since 2013. Worked a lot with Brent at CPRA. And Cindy and them bring the business to St. Mary, and it's our job to protect those businesses from riverine and storm surge. So our mission statement, again, is just to protect the businesses, the people, and the infrastructure of St. Mary. A little bit of background. In 2007, there were 4 different voices for flood protection in St. Mary. You had the Atchafalaya Basin Levee District that managed the northern levees of the parish. Then you had the city of Morgan City, the town of Berwick, and the parish. So you had 4 different voices. When in 2007, they said we need one voice for levee protection in St. Mary, and they created the St. Mary Levee District. One of the things I want to show, this is a new map we had produced recently. You can kind of see the colors, but the main thing here is definitely the Atchafalaya Basin and the Atchafalaya River, which you can see in the middle, that's the red. But the thing that I want to continue to point out and bring a little bit more to the forefront is the other 2 basins that drain through St. Mary. And that's the Barataria Basin on the east side, which you can kind of see that green line on the right, which is part of BTNEP. And then on the left side, you see the Tesh Basin that also drains through St. Mary. So we take water from all over the state. It comes through here and flows, and we have to deal with it. This is our district map. You can see there's some shading. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 different drainage districts here. The levee segments you see in black are all federally authorized levees, part of the MRT system. And then the yellow that you see on local levees. Then all the way to the far west here, you can see there's some different colors. Those are the things that we're currently working on design. We have 111 miles of earthen levee, 25 miles of eye wall, 3 miles of key walls, 70 flood wall gates, and that's just in Berwick and Morgan City. And then we have 5 flood control structures. They're some of your bigger flood control structures. And then 810 feet of removable flood wall. Currently, we are working on the design of the west of Sheraton stuff. That's the stuff to the west end of the parish that you see, which is 35 miles of earthen levees, 5 closure structures, 7 pump stations, and 8 retention ponds. For that project, there's a large amount of mitigation that was going to be needed. It's about a $180 million project. I'm going to get into it later, so I'm going to stop. In Morgan City, one of our current structures that we're working on is a 2,500-foot removable flood wall on Lake Lure. It's the lakefront. It's one of our last closures that we need to get done for the system to be complete. So it's one closure structure. It's a removable flood wall that I can show you later in the thing as well. One additional weir, and then 1,900 feet of earthen levee on the southern portion. This is one of our current structures. A lot of you may have heard of Bayou Shane. I know Ray was around for this, and our chairman, Bill Hidalgo, his two-word phrase for many years was Bayou Shane. And after a 1973, 2011, 2016, 2019 emergency structures need to be installed. In 2022, we were able to dedicate this structure, and with the push of a button, basically, to be operated by one person. It's a 447-foot barge structure. It is the largest in the world that we know of its type. The picture at the bottom was from 2025 flood, Atchafalaya River flood. Can you tell which side is the river water? It's the left side, the muddy river water, and you can see we're holding it back. And that's what keeps that muddy river water from getting into that Lake Basin, Lake Lure, that area. Our next structure is on the west end of the parish. This is the Bayou Teche flood control structure. This helped to close the loop between Sherrington Canal and the Wax Lake outlet. We still had a vulnerable area inside Bayou Teche from the Sherrington Canal going east that would flood during storm surge events. It was completed in 2021. Again, we had this structure being built on the far west end of the parish, and Bayou Shane being built on the far east end of the parish, and we were constantly running in between the two. This has proved to be helpful in numerous storms since its flood. One of our first structures was the Franklin Canal flood protection structure. Just for, I guess, to understand size, this one's 40 feet wide. Okay, so maybe the width of this room, whereas the Bayou Shane is 447 feet. CPRA at one time did a rendering of the Bayou Shane barge in Tiger Stadium, and it took up the entire stadium. So you can imagine the size. So this is one of our first ones, a really small. We have two other structures on the west end of the parish. These were installed, a lot of the Franklin, the Yellow Bayou, and the Hanson were installed after Hurricane Ike pushed storm surge into and flooded Highway 90. So that connection east-west was cut off due to storm surge. So these help with that. Removable flood wall that I was talking about, this is over on the west end of the parish at Sherrington Canal. We have these in two of our manufacturing facilities, our boat yards. This allows them on a daily basis to have access to the water, but then when a storm comes, we can close their facilities up, and they don't get that storm surge that floods their facilities, floods their electrical, all the problems that goes along with that. So you can see, this is just a time lapse, pretty quickly deployed. We can do about 900 feet in roughly about 8 hours. This is a very similar system to what we're looking at doing on the lakefront in Morgan City, but of course on a much larger scale. It's about 2,500 feet there. Then projects under construction and in design. One of the things that St. Mary Levee District prides itself on is having projects shovel ready when we go ask for money. So it's a lot easier to get money when you say, hey, look, we have it designed, we're ready to go. Currently under construction is the T-168 pump station rehab project here in the city of Morgan City. There's 3 stations that we're rehabbing, along with some additional things to improve the drainage. Because remember, we live in a bowl, we're protected by levees all around. So anything that falls, any rain that falls in the system has to be pumped out. In Hurricane Francine, there were a couple hundred homes that flooded due to the amount of rain that we have here. So we are currently moving into our second pump station rehab, which is the one down here at the bottom middle. It's a large station with adding 4 additional pumps. We've increased the size of the intake and the ability of the water to get there. So this is a great project to go along with the levee and stuff that's been done here in Morgan City. And then the lake project that I was talking about, you can see this has been a very challenging project because it goes through people's backyards. They don't want their lake view to be obstructed, so the removable flood wall makes everybody happy and we can protect the city. This is the west of Sheraton one that I was talking about on the early maps. We have a lot of mitigation in this project. Our intent, I think currently, is probably $100 million in mitigation that would need to be done. We are looking at self-mitigating a lot of it in East Cokewash Bay. There's some tremendous amounts of land loss there. So that's what we're working on, is self-mitigating. But this is the project. Like I said, it's 35 miles of levees. We've broken it into 4 reaches. You can see the one on the far right in yellow. That's the first reach that we're working on. The other thing that we're trying to do is avoid huge pump stations. Pump stations are expensive to build, number one, to operate, maintain, number two. So we're really looking at utilizing retention ponds to store the water during the storms. The storms pass, you can take the time to pump the water off. And then another one, this kind of goes along with that Bayou Test project. We have storage built into that system, but we also need a way to remove some of the water inside the system pre-storm and during storm to get the rainwater out. That's all I have. One thing I want to mention is, of course, our website, www.smld.org. One thing that a lot of you may be interested in knowing is that last week we deployed a brand new flow gauge on Bayou Buck. That gauge was part of the USGS system that was taken offline maybe 3 or 4 years ago. We took the initiative. We need that gauge, so we installed our own gauge. It reads flow, temperature, and elevation, but don't look at it today because the elevation needs to be corrected. We plan on doing that tomorrow. So again, that's part of the next area, and that gauge is important to a lot of people. And that's all I have, unless you have any questions.
Any questions on Michael?
Thank you. Thank you all again for being here.
All right, thank you. So I think we're going to swap out projectors here. And we're going to take a quick break. So, run to the restroom or something. Yes. Hey, everybody, I think we're just about there to pick up the programs. If you-
You need another projector? I got one.
Hey, everybody, ready to get started? Got 5 seconds in the slide. So I'd like to remind everybody that the presentations that we see today, those slides will be put up on the website if you want to look at those later on. Because I know we see some great information. It's kind of hard to remember everything. Okay, well, our next speaker, Dr. Carrie Cortez from Madison Pellegrin from Fletcher Technical College, to talk about transition to reentry project update.
Thank you so much. I'm Carrie. I'm the Vice Chancellor for Academics and Workforce at Fletcher. And this is Madison, and she's an executive assistant at Fletcher. I just want to thank you for allowing us to be here and appreciate the opportunity for us to be able to share the work that we're doing with BTNEP support to help previously incarcerated individuals receive training for careers in coastal restoration and related fields. What I would like to do is share just a little bit about Fletcher with you if you're not familiar. I like to think, and we like to think, that Fletcher is truly a college for the community. We do have something for everyone, from dual enrollment to high school equivalency training, short-term certifications that lead to industry-based credentials, certification programs, associate degrees, and also training with the justice-involved individuals. In summary, I like to say that we at Fletcher put folks in the workforce. We help folks also advance their careers. And then we also help learners transfer to a university with our Gen Ed offering as well. So another thing that I would like to share about Fletcher is we are celebrating our 25th anniversary this year. So that means that for 75 years, we have been changing lives and engaging in programs like this one with BTNEP. And last year, we served over 7,100 individuals in all of those areas that I just mentioned. And, you know, that is a huge milestone for us, and we're very proud of that, especially it being the largest group of individuals, a number of citizens that we've served since our 75 years. So a little bit about the scope of the project with BTNEP is that we were, this reentry project was made possible and funded by BTNEP, and we applied for a grant and we were awarded for $50,000. And what that funding provides is scholarships for justice-involved individuals. And that actually we initially started the project looking at folks who were previously incarcerated. What we did in working with our network, expand that to different groups that Madison is going to talk about. But what those scholarships did is the scholarships help support all the things that someone would need going back into the community after being incarcerated. So, for example, you know, a lot of times companies, you know, they require them to do background checks, they'll ask questions, there's a stigma attached. So even being able to find funding for training whenever you have little resources, and then being able to say that they have the skill set to be able to get the job. So that was one of the goals, was really to help folks get the skills they need, remove costs so that they could successfully re-enter which would help contribute to the long-term goal of reducing recidivism. So the training that we put together with this funding was connected to coastal, environmental, and related jobs in high demand. In the state of Louisiana, if you're not familiar, all of the jobs are coded on a 5-star system. So high wage, high demand means 4 and 5 stars. So that means that the job is in high demand and it has a sustainable wage. One of the things these scholarships and this funding within that's helped us do is really remove additional costs. We want it to be a true no-cost training. So we were able to not only provide tuition, but we were able to provide transportation assistance, supplies, gear, and any materials that were needed for the training. So why this matters? We were super excited about this work because it does build on work that we're already doing. Just to give you an example of a couple of things that we're doing with the Justice Involved community, we are offering an online degree program at the Elaine Hunt Correctional Center in St. Gabriel, and that is a business degree that we are offering. The folks who are enrolled in, the folks who are enrolled in that do have release dates. And we also have partnerships with the Terrebonne Parish Correctional Facilities, and we do training with them. And what I would like to share with you is that, and I know I speak for myself, but also speak for Madison and anyone else at Fletcher who is involved with this group, is that watching the success and seeing how the lives, the training and the skill sets they get really do change their lives, it just makes us want to do it more and come up with other innovative ways to be able to help this population. The other thing that it does, it not only changes that individual's life, but it changes the lives of their loved ones and their family and the people around them, as you can imagine. So we really wanted to put this in place so that they receive credentials at no cost, because it was a direct pathway for employment and put them in a stable job. I will turn it over to Madison, Ms. Pellegrin now, because she actually was the magic behind the computer and the phone. She, and another group at the college recruited and worked with these individuals to get them enrolled and to help them stay enrolled. So I'm going to turn it over to her because she has firsthand experience with what the opportunity means to these individuals.
Dr. Cortez. So my name is Madison. I'm an executive assistant at Fletcher, as Dr. Cortez said. I'm in kind of a unique position. So I sit Dr. Cortez on the academic side. I'm also the executive assistant for our Vice Chancellor of Enrollment, Dr. Autumn. So this process and this project was very unique because I was able to kind of help the students from start to finish, both getting them into training, working on the academic side with Dr. Cortez, and then also the enrollment piece with Dr. Manning. So for our application process, we worked with our marketing team to create a flyer. The flyer kind of touched on all the different trainings that we were going to offer, stated that it was for previously incarcerated individuals, and also provided a little QR code and a link for them to apply. We had a very short application. It included some basic identifying information, as well as a short 100 to 250 word statement about what this scholarship would mean to them if they were awarded. Once an individual completed the application, I would then receive it and follow up via phone call. Say, hey, I see you're interested in our training. What can we do for you? What specific training options are you looking at? Here's the schedule. And then we would kind of go back and forth via email and then enroll them in the training. We also identified the barriers at the beginning. So along with getting them into the training, I would ensure that there weren't any other hurdles that they would encounter before they would show up for day one. We need transportation assistance. We can provide bus passes, gas cards. Are you able to, we're going to look at the different fees and the cost associated with their supplies, materials. We're going to cover that in the scholarship as well. So that way, whenever they showed up for day one, they had nothing to really worry about except for getting to class and learning what was there. And as well with the application, the 100, 250 word statement, while we knew that this project was going to have a huge impact on these individuals and their families and the community, it wasn't until we really read the statements that they shared about why they deserve the scholarship that it was evident that this was going to be a very huge impact. So I just wanted to share some of the excerpts that we received from some of the applications. So these are from 3 different applicants, just a short little clip from their statement. So we have one that expressed, with 10 years of oil field experience, I'm ready to learn a new trade, work steadily, and give back to my community through honest, consistent work. Another one expressed, I hope to help preserve Louisiana's wetlands so they will be here for future generations. And then one of our personal favorites, I'm determined to be a better woman and better example as a mother to my kids. I've made many mistakes and I've learned from them, and now I'm ready to prove that. So these voices really kept the purpose of the project at the forefront and helped us to kind of get it moving along, really seeing what the changes would be to these individuals' lives. We also ensured to make sure that the opportunity included both relevant training and supported the need to complete that training. So here are the different pathways, the different trainings that we offered as part of the project. So first we offered different trainings in the coastal and field operations, including airboat safety and operations. They would receive an airboat operator IBC after that. Drones was an online, it's an FAA Part 107 UAS certification. And so that was an online program, self-paced. And if they wanted to get the pilot's portion, they would then come in on a Saturday, do a couple of hours for that portion, and then receive the certification. We also offered heavy equipment operations. In the skills trade, we offered night classes in electrical and welding. If they couldn't make an in-person training, we also offered some online training in technology and cybersecurity. These different certifications in the Tech Plus and CompTIA were completely online. They were self-paced for the student so that they could work at their own pace and speed, especially if they had employment or anything. We also included safety training, in particular CPR. And like we stated, the tuition, the supplies, the gear, the transportation, materials, everything was covered in this scholarship, which meant that it was not only tuition free, but it was cost free from the start of day one. Participants also came through the project from many different pathways, and so we worked with a couple of different populations of previously incarcerated folks. So we worked with individuals who were already in the community after release. These individuals, there was no timeline as to when they could apply. So we had individuals who would call me that said, I just got released yesterday. We had individuals who would say, I've gotten released over 6 months, or I've been released for 2 years and I've seen this project and I still be in it, absolutely. Individuals would also come to us from reentry agencies. So a lot of the case managers and parole officers that were working with their clients, they would get them in touch with us to provide this training for them. We also had individuals preparing for release. So as Dr. Cortez said, we have partnerships with Watershed correctional facilities. And so as long as those individuals had a release date, we would provide the training at the correctional facility in that setting for them. So that way, upon release, they were already trained and ready to enter the workforce. And so as you can see, there was no single path into the project. And so each participant kind of required some level of individual guidance. And we ensured that they were kind of taken care of from start as soon as they called and they were interested to that finish line and completing the training. All of this work, all the different trainings we offered in the pathway led to these successes that we are most proud of. So in total, across this project to date, we have trained 40 students. These 40 students were the ones who were awarded, accepted, and then completed the training. Across these 40 students, 55 total credentials were earned. So we had 17 in welding, in which they earned an AWS welding basics. We also had 18 heavy equipment and forklift certifications. We had 13 CPR, 5 Coastal 101, which was a 4-hour seminar given on a Friday or a Saturday, just about our coastal and environmental restoration efforts. And then 2 airboat operator certifications, also including airboat safety. What we're most proud of all of this is that we had a 100% retention rate from day one to completion. So what that means is that as long as that participant came to day one, they finished their training. I don't think I realized the impact of that. They started and they completed. So the numbers show the outcome, but this particularly shows that once these participants were able to overcome all of the hurdles and the barriers that it took to get to day one, they were able to finish the training and then be equipped to enter the workforce in a prepared way. And it took a lot of work, behind the scenes and everything to get them from start to finish. But once we removed the barriers, we realized that it wasn't really about the commitment piece. It was more about the access. And so while we removed a lot of the barriers, we talked about the transportation, the tuition, we also encountered a couple of things that couldn't necessarily be taken care of on the funding side alone. And so some of the things we learned across this project is that there are a few barriers that were still beyond our control. A lot of the participants, whenever they would call and they would say, oh, I'm interested in heavy equipment. And I would say, okay, well, that's a 3-week program from 7 to 3, Monday through Friday. And a lot of the case managers and parole officers in their agreements with the participants, they had to have employment. They had supervision conditions and things like that. And so we kind of ran into some issues on the timing, the scheduling. Also, like I mentioned, the electrical and the welding pieces were night classes, Monday through Thursday from about 5 to 9, 5 to 8. So if they were already having these employment requirements by their parole officer or their case manager, it made it difficult to then get right off of work, go straight into training, especially across several weeks. So we would definitely want to look into that as part of another project. But again, with the retention piece, every participant who made it to the first day completed. And so that challenged a common misconception about the motivation against this population. The issues were not whether or not they would want to make it or they had the motivation, but it was the challenges that would prevent them from getting to day one. So I'll go ahead and turn it back over to Dr. Cortez, who's going to close about what this taught us for the project and about a future vision of what the project looks like.
That round of applause. That is, the project is still going on. We have one more cohort of training, but that retention is unheard of. That is just, a testament of the work that our staff was doing to help them stay enrolled. So like she was saying, the lessons we've learned from this project are that when we do it again, because we will do it again, when we do it again, I would like to engage employers earlier into the process and make sure that we identify the job opportunities that are out there and maybe even have, a meet and greet with the employers with these folks, because now we have the proof that they can be successful and that they want to be there. So I think that is going to help because number one, as Madison mentioned, it wasn't about motivation, wasn't the issue. It was access. And I think that, as we brainstormed moving forward, something that could help support this would be, employer sponsored wages, because one of the things they couldn't just stop working because they would lose wages to come to training. So a model maybe where the employers could hire them or give them stipends to attend the training. I think that we could make it much more successful than really it already has been. Some of the other things, what we are currently doing because the project is still going on, we are continuing to follow the participants from the credential into employment. I think that's going to be interesting to be able to see where they are, what jobs that they were able to obtain, and then also recruit them to come back for additional training. So, with that statistic that once they got here on day one, once they were able to enter the training on day one, and we had 100% retention to the end, I think that is very hopeful for a future decrease in the recidivism rate. So, while we couldn't measure that at this time, and that's more of a long term, that is something that is very hopeful for us. So, in conclusion, I want to thank you again for allowing us to be here, and thank BTNEP, for helping make this project possible and the lives that were impacted. So, that is all we have, and we are happy to take questions.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Cortez and Madison. That's an incredible program. Do we have any questions or comments?
Thank you, Dr. Cortez and Ms. Pellegrin. Appreciate that. This is an interesting project, a little bit outside of the box, honestly, for what BTNEP is usually involved in. But, you know, you hear stats these days, like for every, 5 people that are leaving the skilled trades, only 2 are replacement. So, certainly, these kind of programs and getting people more involved in the skilled trades is a good thing. There's lots of opportunity there. I guess you kind of touched on it, but I'm curious about the 100% completion rate. That I got to imagine is pretty unusual. And I know you said that the commitment was there, I guess, but it's got to be a little more than that. What do you attribute that success rate to?
I do think that it had a lot to do with the wraparound services that are already in place. Like Madison was mentioning, there are parole officers. We work with Goodwill Industries as well. I know that Emily has, been helping us with her network as well. So, for example, we were able to provide bus passes, or even gas cards for them to be able to come to campus. But they haven't been doing that. And we think it's because of the other wraparound services for the, network of the justice involved population.
Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you all very much. All right, next up to talk to us about the Louisiana Watershed Initiative in Region 6, Alex Carter and Sarah Lambeth.
Thank you for having us. I'm Carrie with the Fireline. I'm really happy to be here today. We're presenting on behalf of South Central Planning and the Region 6 Steering Committee. And we just want to share the final Region 6 watershed plan with y'all. So I'm going to turn it over to Alex Carter and she's going to go through the plan.
Thank y'all so much. And thank you to Pat Gordon and Mark Black who are here on behalf of South Central and the Region 6 Steering Committee. Can y'all hear me okay? Yeah. Okay, great. This has been a long effort. For those of y'all who are not as familiar with the Watershed Initiative, it started back in 2016 as a result of major floods all throughout sort of middle Louisiana, but it affected everyone in these basins. So if you dropped, we had like 30 inches in a couple hours, maybe I think 1 hour actually. We have so many more of those now that I'm like with oil, we're this just happened. But it started back in 2016 when John Bell Edwards, then governor, put together the Louisiana Watershed Initiative and said we needed to start managing water regionally because we're building projects that shift risk around sometimes. We need to run models that show multiple projects functioning at the same time. Because sometimes we're in the middle of building one project, another project is also in progress. We're modeling them separately, and there are these cumulative impacts, right? So it's not really a dig on any one levee district or drainage board or parish. Everybody's kind of working to mitigate the risk, but if we're not kind of mitigating risk together, then we're sort of still ending up in a place where we're just playing whack-a-mole. And so the Watershed Initiative was set up to manage water regionally, both from an ecosystem management framework, so it's still relevant with this group, but also managing with FEMA, mitigation, housing, elevation, major drainage projects with drainage districts and levee boards. And it took a long time for the Council on Watershed Management to get set up. Regional steering committees were set up. Watershed regions were set up, including y'all's watershed region, just Region 6. I don't want to say Region 6 without explaining a lot of work. Got to the point to be able to put a number on a map that y'all already have as managed water around. And so today, we really want to talk about what has happened since the state set up those regions, and those regions got to work putting together their watershed plans and using statewide models that the state also invested in. So it sort of set up a structure to manage water regionally, but it also invested in statewide models, and those are engineering models to look at flood risk. That's kind of what you're seeing here with all this, with the water movement and velocity. And so bear with me as I manage back and forth. But yeah, I think today we want to make sure y'all know this is happening. I think most of y'all may be involved, but if not, you know, it sits right next to what y'all are doing in terms of estuary science. It's just more flood risk focused. And so it supports all the things that y'all are doing. And at a minimum, I think we want to make sure you know what it is, you know how you can engage with it, and that we're working together, put the best projects forward that do the most work for Region 6. And so we'll talk a little bit about the planning efforts and recommendations in the plan. We'll review some of the projects that were modeled in Region 6, and then talk about a little bit of these plan implementation activities that are underway right now. And I think this is a really easy question for y'all. Where is Region 6? Y'all already know this is the same region that y'all are operating within your basins. It's this area from Point Coop all the way down to where y'all are. Kind of thank you so much for changing the projector too, it's making it so much easier for me. But the big thing here for us, and as we work with people all across Region 6 to develop this plan, it was that it mattered most to people because they're seeing their flood risk increasing, despite a lot of time, energy, and funding going into flood risk reduction projects, which I'll see here shown are all the state's special flood hazard areas. So these are not areas that are wet. These are areas that are marked on FEMA's flood risk maps. So the white areas are outside the flood risk maps. And it looks pretty small in terms of how much area is outside the flood risk map in Region 6 itself. So that means we're managing a lot of floodplains, we're managing a lot of water. We're doing this through projects, we're doing this through programs and through policy. And coordinating those policies can make their impact that much more. When we walked and talked and put on our booths and we're all across the region, we heard very clearly the vision of this plan needed to be about the future. It needed to be about the region being insurable. So many people are struggling with their homeowners insurance, with their business insurance, flood insurance. It needs to be investable, speaking to the support that, you know, people need to feel confident spending their money, building their facilities, investing in the region. And that means they need to be assured that the efforts that are happening are mitigating risk, that we can measure that mitigation over time and make the case that all of the efforts that are happening across Region 6 are building towards lower risks, less flooding, and better managed drainage systems. And that's not because the people who are doing it are different or gaining capacity. It's just that they're working together. And so what you'll see in this plan, and I have a copy of it with me today. I have 2 copies if anybody wants it. Is that it just represents mostly a shift in their approach from a fragmented approach to a coordinated approach. And this was always the vision of the Watershed Initiative. We're just seeing it be put into action with this plan, I think, for the first time. And so today we do sort of parish by parish. The plan pulls together a watershed-based approach. It goes from reactive investments that are quick in the situation to looking and running the models and seeing how water is likely going to behave from one system to another and pulling those leaders together and going from that limited coordination to a data-driven investment. These are one of these. I will say too, for this group, all of these data sets are available. We have all the GIS files. If you see anything that is on these screens, and you're like, I would love to have them, let us know. We're working through South Central. All this is resource. It can be used to help you make your own decisions and investments. But this is a high-level picture of the models running and how water moves all throughout Region 6. And I think what we saw was that there was actually a need for investments in the north part because to reduce the amount of water that's being funneled south. It makes sense. And how water kind of circulates in and around St. John and St. Charles. Like there was a lot of communication about potential future projects that are developed to better manage that circulation. I think y'all know this, but we always say it, and it's like a continued narrative that we know coordination is important. We all know coordination is important. These systems are interactive; they interact together. And ultimately, keeping them linked together helps everyone in this room do their jobs and benefit local communities and their natural environment. The plan itself does set up the process and like the structures that need to be in place for this to work, right? So when the Watershed Initiative started, everybody was kind of like, how are we gonna execute this at the state level, at the regional level? And the plan clarifies that the Regional Steering Committee, or the RSC, are responsible for coordinating, prioritizing projects, and providing alignment across different model systems and different drainage basins. And that local governments maintain their role of implementing projects. No one wants to take someone's authority away. They're continuing to do operation maintenance, continue to make development decisions. The difference is you have tools and capacity at the regional level to support those decisions. And same thing for the data modeling. And ultimately, these are creating a shared foundation for decisions. And that just results in better decisions at the end of the day. When y'all have a solicitation period, we did the same thing for the Watershed Initiative within Region 6. We called and had over 400, 500 projects submitted. We had to work out how we were going to prioritize those projects because you can't select every single project. Unfortunately, we all know there's not enough money out there. And so we worked on a way where you also can't run every single project through the models. You can't run 400 projects through the models. It's too expensive. It's way too time consuming. And so we had to work with planning, with data, including economic data and forecasting where people are likely going to live to figure out where the investments make the most sense for the future. You don't want to rebuild a community necessarily in an area where maybe underwater in a long time, but you may want to fortify that community and keep their people safe, right? And so there's a management approach to this. We had to put together what we call an area of interest methodology, which is really important because there's no other region in the state that has done this yet, has worked out how to prioritize these projects at a regional scale. And so what you'll see here is based on that analysis, we start to zoom down or whittle it down. Where should we focus these projects? Where are they going to have the biggest impact? Where are they going to reduce the most flood risk? And where will that flood risk be best, long term? Like where would have the longest term impact? And ultimately, we went from 209 projects that could be modeled all the way to 4 projects that were modeled based on regional benefit, risk reduction potential, readiness, local support, and operation maintenance requirements. And this is difficult. Like, I think y'all know this, but anyone who works in government, it's like sometimes you have to get out of our own way. Like, you have all these great ideas and you just can't seem to get decision makers to pull the trigger on something because there's too many options. This process in Region 6 has really set a precedent for how to do this quickly in a very transparent way based on data and science and collaboration, which helps us just move forward more projects to the point where they can get funded and they're more competitive. Because whenever, as y'all know, you submit a grant, you need to say, how is it evaluated? Is it in a plan? Was it informed by community engagement? So on and so forth. And so you'll see here the projects that were modeled. They literally, some of these were groups of projects too. So like, for example, the Rocky Mountain dredging, all the blue, those are all one project. That's a system of levees improvements by Cutrera was actually funded, or not funded. It was submitted for a $20 million grant. But these were also shovel-ready projects that were designed and ready to move forward. We also modeled them together. This was something that I think is so important. Sometimes we hear, and I've heard it, I do a little cringe, we have the state models, and they're running, rain scenarios, and they're running risk. And sometimes I'll hear the engineer say, well, just cut out your piece of your model and run the project in that one little watershed and then pop it back in. And we're like, no, that's like not the point of this. The point of this is to run all the projects that you're proposing in one simulation across the whole thing. It might take 3 days to run, to see how they work together if they were all funded. And so that's what we're demonstrating in Region 6. And what we're trying to do with this plan is to make things faster, make them clearer, get better results, because we all have busy lives. There's always an opportunity cost, right? If you've got to pick one project, you're not picking another, or if you're something that takes a long time to do, you may be like, I can do 6 things that are just as impactful. I'm going to do those faster. And so this plan sort of sets up the framework to be more open, be more transparent, to work together with partners like you all to really make a difference in the space where we're all competing for money, right? So we want to put Region 6 projects that do the most for the most over the long time, over the long period in front of the other projects in the state and in the nation, right? What you'll see here too, I've talked a lot about projects, but planning is just as important. So I'm an urban planner. I'm the CEO of Desirelight. We never introduce ourselves. We're so we're focused. And we were the consultant that was picked to do the plan. We had Moffitt and Nickel, an engineering firm, work with us to interpret all the model results. And it's important to know that while we were working on this, we knew that it wasn't going to be just the drainage project, and it wasn't going to be just the modeling that was going to pull us out of this. We're like a ship with a bunch of little holes. We have to fill all of them to really mitigate risk. So if we're building in areas that we know flood, and we have sort of old data, it's harder to prepare our communities for those risks at the same time that we're mitigating flooding, right? And so what these models also do, and the plan also provides, is a look at future flood risk projections that are more inland, right? If y'all are familiar with CPRA, which I'm sure y'all are, you have your CPRA models. These models for Region 6 now go north of the CPRA boundaries. You have now inland models, and you can see, your future floodplains. And I say that gently because we have floodplain managers on our team. They're not regulatory. Right? No one is adopting new FEMA insurance maps, but they can be used to plan. So if you have planners, if you have GIS folks in your offices or your local jurisdiction, and they're accepting permits, they can look at these data sets and say, okay, you might not be in the FEMA flood hazard map now, you might not be in an AE now, but if your data was updated, you would be. You don't have to build 1 foot higher or elevate your house, but you should consider it because your risk is a little higher than you may realize. Build up, because none of us want to gut our houses, but all of us have. For the most part, it's a painful process, and I think the more we communicate transparently, the better. And this is what this looks like, right? So we've actually produced a data set that looks at those specific future floodplains. All the blue areas are what would be considered new areas. So it's kind of raising the alarm in a gentle way, where it's like your floodplain manager wouldn't see these areas, but our data, the data that y'all now have in Region 6, shows this is areas you should just think about if you get applications, advising the builders, advising the residents, that they should maybe think a little bit more about building more resiliently in those areas. We've also got in the appendix of the plan a resilience overlay zone ordinance that literally says it's like a zone you can map, like a zoning district. It has higher base flood elevation requirements, open pier and beam requirements, and you can map it on these areas and say, we just know this and we just want to proactively require it. We don't want to compete with flood. It's going to be a little bit more expensive on the front end, but in the long run, they'll thank you for it, right? And it's ultimately their choice at this point, right? You can make it optional. You can say, we just want to require that this conversation happens at the point permit. We also have operation and maintenance plans for canals, and we have model ordinances to adopt this comprehensive, watershed plan. It counts. We've made sure that it counts for FEMA community rating system points all throughout the plan. Anywhere there are point opportunities for anyone who's in the community rating system or knows if their community in this community is in the program. It's important because this is a program that FEMA created to lower risk by proactively mitigating and to reward communities who adopt higher standards by lowering their insurance premium through, incentives, right? And the incentives are lower rates. Talk to us after if that was confusing. It sounded confusing, but it's a big program. I'm sure many of y'all are very familiar with it. We're all talking to Louisiana folks that live and breathe this. I'm sure more than we like. Farah is here too, who dreams of CRS in her life. But ultimately, the plan itself, we tried to make it where it's very, very data focused. It's got the beginning, and I'll have copies of it, are like, this is the story of Region 6, this is the story of the project, this is the story of how we're going to organize and be efficient. The appendices have all of the deep dive data pieces. And there's a recommendation section that's more detailed than that, but it includes things like strengthening regional coordination, prioritizing using the framework to move projects forward, advancing priority projects and funding, improving O&M. And this came from locals, but also the plan connects the challenge with tools to implement. So align development to reduce future limit risk. This is more like at the point of permit, strengthening local compliance and capacity, and then tracking progress and measuring your success. And this is important too, because this plan is meant to be adopted. It was actually adopted yesterday by the regional steering committee, or was accepted and forwarded to the state. The idea is that it gets updated every 5 years. You rerun the models and you can measure how much risk you're reducing, right? Time, year, like just like CPRA, but a little more specific, is that we're talking about communities and people and structure. And the biggest benefit to this is really the case making that you're providing to your residents and your jurisdictions around insurance and economic development. A lot of the folks that we talk to continuously said, look, I know about flood risk. I know that flood. We were like, we know, but we have to mitigate the flood risk in a very thoughtful way, in a very measured way. And then we have to track it and then make the case to insurance providers that we're doing something about this, so we can attract more insurance providers, lower our rates, and get more industry to locate in. This is just a quick timeline. I'm not going to go into detail. It led up to the acceptance of the plan yesterday and brick applications being submitted on behalf of the region. And ultimately, I can't thank Brent and Pat and Mark enough for asking us to come and speak on behalf of the region, because I think the main goal is we want to make sure we introduce y'all to the plan. You understand the data that's available. You understand we're a resource to y'all. And if there are opportunities for us to work together, let us know. We're here because that's what it's going to take to really make a big impact for the long haul. This is really where we are now. We are talking to jurisdictions, local, parishes and cities. If you haven't looked at the plan and you're in the CRS program, let us know, because you can adopt this plan, pretty much make no commitments, right? Because a regional plan doesn't put responsibility on you. And you can get over 200 points, right? So you need a lot of points for this plan, and it's just sitting in your back, seat. We want to make sure that you're using it. This is we talked about earlier, funding Darrel. And right now we're actively advocating for long-term funding. So the Office of Community Development and DOTD have collectively worked on this program. DOTD just set up their current authority board, which is sort of seems like it's a successor of the Watershed Initiative. And so they're about to do their statewide master plan, and their focus is on flood risk mitigation. And so Region 6 is in an incredible position to set the bar and be in a great position to explain how this work was done, how the models were used, how projects were selected, and just kind of help the rest of the state sort of catch up. If anybody wants to view the plan or look at how it was developed or find contact information, visit the project website. It's r6watershedplan.com. Anybody has questions? Thank you so much for your attention.
All right, thank you, Tara and Alex.
I just want to recognize BTNEP and Andrew Barrett for being part of the steering committee and put this plan together. We appreciate that partnership. Thank you.
All right, thank you for the acknowledgement. Any other questions or comments?
I have a comment.
You want to go first?
Yeah, I can yell it out. So I appreciate,
I know the estuary program, we care about the people and the businesses and the houses. And my family lives, in the town part of our state. But the estuary program is also interested in what's outside the levees often. Because that's where the cypress trees are in Spartina Marsh and Seaside Skyro And, you know, to me, if we learned something about coastal land loss over the last 30 years, it was that, well, we kind of messed up our natural environment by making big, good levees in some ways. And sometimes, I mean, this is the estuary program. It's sort of like, I want the watershed initiative to work because I do want insurance rates to go down and stuff like that. But it is a worry when a good levee does something like protect home, but it also drowns the Spartina marsh where seaside sparrows might be. So, I mean, well, I guess what I'm asking is there anything in the watershed initiative, do they ever consider natural habitat rather than just where people live?
Yes, yeah, the short answer is yes. We're working with the Nature Conservancy, and they have a tool that looks at how projects impact natural functions. And I think your concern is valid because we do have to constantly bring up this issue. Throughout the plan's development, you know, we talk about natural functions. We looked at it in the models too, right? So we're looking at the models. We talk about it a little less in the plan because the outreach effort that we had with the public works directors and the engineers and the planners and the public, the resounding message was we care about insurance, we care about our homes, we were worried about flooding. But I think to this group's credit, you have to keep advocating for the natural function. It's in there and we pushed for it because we think about it comprehensively. But we had to be mindful that in terms of what we've heard from the public, it had a smaller voice than the other issues. And it's reflected in the vision, but I think it's important to know the models, when you're running them, we're looking at all those things.
I had a question as well. Thank you, Alex. Appreciate you being here and presenting on that. You mentioned, I think it was the 6 projects, I guess, that are,
Yes.
those are part of the plan. Those are the projects in the plan.
Yes.
And so I think you also mentioned that these funding is being sought for some of those, but are kind of what, can you give us a sense of what stage of the projects are in? Are any of them under construction or the design?
Yeah.
So just at the concept level or where are they?
Yeah, I don't want to misspeak. I feel like the Bayou Darrel was the one that got submitted. It was a $20 million project. It was submitted to BRIC and it was accepted by the state and then forwarded on. I think they're in design, but they have some design work in that grant as well. It has to also be coordinated with Region 5. So we've been in the process. It moves water into Region 5, right? So we were like, okay, this is also the benefit of the watershed initiative because we were like, we have our models. We know it reduces risk in Region 6, but we were like, we need to get Region 5 on board. We just recently, I don't want to overshare, but we've been working with OCD and the Office of Community Development and DOCD to get them to model effects in Region 5. The other 4 or the other 5, we did vendor cost analysis to support their next phase. And I can get y'all information on this project. I don't want to misspeak though, because it was an effort to get all the project information. And so some of them are further along than others.
Thank you. And then I guess you mentioned, the revisiting of the plan and sort of updating the plan, but I missed it. You mentioned it. I missed the cycle. Like when can the management conference expect? I know it was just approved or adopted yesterday, but like, what's the next step that we should be aware of?
Yeah, so the plan itself, it can be, we encourage its amendment on a pretty regular basis. We want the models to be used, updated, and then projects that are modeled be incorporated into the plan as it moves forward. Because unlike, I think, Cutrera, which had, a bigger, it was just more extensive, right? And so I think we're at this point where we were able to get 4 that were, 6 that were model ready, right? And so we know that there may be additional project concepts that are in development that can be moved through. We don't want to wait 5 years to work on the models again and put all these projects in. So as we were working on the amendment process, the recommendation is every 5 years, the full plan gets updated, but the regional steering committee can amend the plan whenever they want to add another project that has been modeled and incorporated into their recommendation. Does that make sense? So it's more of a living document because we know that we're actively growing capacity in some of the jurisdictions that need the projects the most. And the methodology that we use highlighted that because we weren't just saying if you have projects and you have capacity, we're going to take those and we're going to prioritize it. We were looking at where the risk was, and sometimes there was a lot of risk and there was no project. And so that mismatch, we have to continue to work on in this next 5 years, and not to wait 5 years to start looking at ways we could develop potentially new projects.
Hey, Alex, can you bring us up to date on the current authority that you mentioned at the meeting yesterday?
Yeah, they held their second meeting. So the question was for anyone who didn't hear, just a quick update on DOT's current authority, which appears to be sort of the successor of the Watershed initiative, or at least they're definitely openly saying we want to take all of the work that was done with Watershed and build on it. And so that means using the models on kind of getting all of the regions to the same level. And they have an RFP out right now for a statewide watershed plan. And their leadership seems very on the same page, which is a great sign for groups like this and for people who are interested in this work. In that they want to use the model. I think they want to reinvest in flood risk mitigation. Their mission is like flood risk first, and this is why I think advocating for environmental impacts is so important, and y'all's role in this space is really important to stay very vocal. But ultimately, they are in the process of they're going to use all the watershed stuff, but advance it and sort of be more involved in projects and planning and creating sort of a level playing field across the whole state where lots of projects are moving forward and modeled across regions and sort of picking better ones that have the bigger impact and have better sources. I think the biggest update though is we're advocating for Region 6, right? So we're actively in those meetings and asking about what's your budget. They have $1 million budget this year, $1 million budget next year. It's legislatively authorized, and they're looking for additional sources, right? And so as we learn more, we'll absolutely let y'all know. But it is nice to see that they seem committed to using the models that have already been developed and advancing the work.
Alex, I just want to say thank you for your work over the last 10 years. Your work in the early days at LWI to help get things set up, and I hope you don't get too much PTSD thinking about all those meetings, but also your work in Region 6. I definitely want to let you know how much I appreciate not just your work on the projects and programs, but the policy work. All too often we leave policy seems to get forgotten as we try to reduce risk across our areas. Having a voluntary policy, that's just exceptional. I hope the other regions kind of take a look at the good work that you and Tara and the experience that you guys bring from all the work you've done, and maybe pick up on that theme of the importance of policies. We can't always project our way out of reducing risk. If we do some things on the front end, it will make everything much more sustainable on the back end. So thank you.
No, thank y'all. I mean, I think we learn from every person we talk to, and we're just sponges. And we're hoping to just make an impact. So it means a lot. Thank you so much. And I think you're right about the policies. I mean, it also doesn't cost a lot of money. You already paid someone to issue permits. It's like just make that conversation a little bit longer, And so a lot of it just leveraging the work that you already have in place. It's making it a little bit more impactful and giving people the tools to make better decisions for themselves, and ultimately it's their decision. We don't want to force anything on anyone. We're very Louisiana, right? But we also want to be like, you can't make a good decision if you don't know,
Yeah, time for one more question. Just building on something that Carrie said, and others have been saying all along. And one thing that's hard about all of this is, and from a perspective, I lived inside the budget system, but I worked outside the budget system, right? And that when we make decisions and evaluations, you have to look at these things holistically. I get asked all the time if levies are a good idea.
And it always depends on where your perspective is and where you are in relation. I mean, you're not eliminating the water. Like that water is going somewhere, right? It's either being trapped outside, or it's being funneled inside. And when you put a levee in, you know, sometimes you end up with problems with flooding on the inside of the levee, because if you don't design in a way where it has leaks or breaks in it, right? I mean, and so we're all experiencing these changes every time we do a project. And one of the things that's the most frustrating thing for me as a scientist is that, you know, money for projects is great. And, you know, we give somewhat lip service to monitoring and understanding what the impacts of those projects are. At most, you get a year of funding to look at something in a very limited scope after something is put in. You don't know what the real impacts are, right? I mean, we need to be looking at these long-term. We need to go back and look at these things. You know, are there ways that we could design these things a little different? You know, you have the overwhelming need and pressure for these projects to impact our flood risk, the insurance rates, all of those things. But that natural environment and what's out there, you know, you don't have that same value to your properties if you don't have those natural environments that are around. But you need to look at it holistically, and you're always going to make trade-offs. Like, you know, what's good for this purpose is going to have some negative impact somewhere else, because we have a problem with water. I mean, it's got to go somewhere. And so you just need to think about those things, and, you know, hopefully more people have these conversations. We try to evaluate, you know, holistically where the benefits of the natural environment, but also don't forget about people may live in one spot, but they may work somewhere else. Yeah. And, you know, we're constantly juggling those things. You know, this is truly a working coast. Absolutely. You know, more so than probably most places that are on the planet. I mean, back in the days before we had industrialization of things, this has always been a working coast in Louisiana. So I think it's just helpful to think about that, look at these things holistically when we're evaluating projects, and encourage others to do this.
Yeah, and I will say, like, the nice thing about the model is that sometimes it elevates something that's coming out, right? Like, that's a secondary effect. And what we're encouraging people to do is resubmit it with a secondary project, right? Secondary projects that offset the negative impact. And so you're not just monitoring, you're sort of, you know, this is a potential impact. Let's just plan to make the breadth of the project wider. Yeah, no, these are all great points. And I will say, I did mention it earlier about the current authority board, which was reassuring when they talked about the levee systems and the extent of the models. They did say we struggle with this, where the inland models, the Region 6 models that are common and associated with this plan, they stop, right? It stopped before you really get into the coastal area. And then CPRA's models start. And when we were at the meeting, they did say, they were like, that is not a line that's like a levee. It is a levee, but they were like, this is a line where we need to coordinate more, or we need to work more together. And so I was reassured by the leadership's ability to grasp that, like, you know, boundaries are not finite. Like, they're actually, like, things are crossing boundaries, things are impacting other things. And so absolutely though, and I think that the key is to develop your projects to be more comprehensive, you know, in how they are phrased.
Okay, well, thank you. I'm gonna move on. The next presentation is going to be about a place I can't wait to see. It's at the heart of the Atchafalaya Museum in Fair Park. And we're going to hear from Darrel Rivere and Darrel Gomez.
Can you hear me in the back?
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you. As Dr. Fontenot said, my name is Darrel Rivere. I'm president of the Heart of the Atchafalaya Museum Board. Along with David Farrell Gomez, he's also a board member, grant writer, and grants and programs director, and so much more. Today, we are inviting BTNEP and our neighbors into a story of PFR and Darrel Rivere, a community shaped by water, faith, family, work, and Cajun traditions. The Heart of the Atchafalaya Museum is being built to preserve that story, but also to use it as a foundation for tourism, education, economic growth, and opportunity for the next generation. We're not building only for the past. We are building a place that carries our culture forward. Our story starts where life here has always started, with the water. The waterways around us shape where people settle, how they travel, what they ate, how they work, and how families survive. The swamp is not simply scenery around our community, it's part of our identity. That is why the people's story cannot be told without the swamp, and the swamp story cannot be told without the people. Water, work, faith, family, culture, and the strongest part of that story is still here today, our people. When going from vision to reality, we wanted a museum for the 21st century, one that could tell our story, preserve our culture, connect to the landscape, and create an experience strong enough to attract visitors worldwide. So we deliberately reached out to professionals with significant national and international experience. Peter Shemayoff and Bobby Poo brought deep architectural and museum design experience, including work associated with major public exhibitions and institutions such as World War II Museum and the Nashville Aquarium. Ms. Sherry Kafka-Wagner brought the perspective of a nationally recognized planner and museum exhibition designer with experience shaping major public places and visitor experiences, such as the San Antonio Riverwalk. Mr. Tom Geisner brought decades of experience in graphic identity and visual communication, helping us to think about how a visitor understands a place, a story, and a message. Joe Klein brought architectural experience with cultural and museum projects around the world. They helped us think differently about what a museum could be. They helped us develop a concept where the buildings, the exhibits, the landscape, the trail, the water, the culture, and the visitor experience all work together. Our own Lucian Cutrera from right here in Morgan City, which I'm sure many of you know, took the conceptual plans and helped us develop our master plan for execution. X Plus Inc. is contracted for our exhibits, design, and fabrication. Some of his work includes CBRA, LSU Center of River Studies, Rural Life Museum, Louisiana State Museum, Concept for Coastal Center at Nichols, and LSU Memorial Tower Museum. That combination is what we believe will make the Heart of Atchafalaya a museum for the 21st century. Professionally designed, deeply authentic, and rooted in the communities it represents. We brought world-class design experience to the table, but we kept the heart of the story local. We are creating a community visitors will want to know. Our greatest attraction is authenticity. The culture is still carried by fishermen, cooks, musicians, craft people, French speakers, church families, school, business owners, volunteers, elders, and young people. Visitors will not meet the recreated version of Cajun life. They will meet a community where those traditions are still part of everyday life. Our people are not background to the museum. They are the story. We needed a way to preserve that living story and give visitors a place to experience. The Heart of Atchafalaya is so much more than a museum. Will be a living cultural and environmental campus, not simply a building with exhibits. Visitors will move from the museum to the historic home, the pavilion, heritage walking trail, future discovery cabin, and ultimately into the waterways themselves. Each part of the campus adds another layer to the same story. The campus connects culture to the actual landscape that created it. That creates an experience very different from simply walking through galleries. You will see it inside and experience it outside. Our partnership with State RTP Trails Office establishes the Heritage Walking Trail that extends museum interpretation into the landscape. Something introduced in an exhibit, a bird, a plant, an occupation, waterway, tool, or tradition, can then be encountered outdoors. Visitors can see, hear, and sometimes touch what they have just learned about, making the story more personal and memorable. The museum introduces the story. The trail lets visitors walk into it. One part of the trail tells a remarkable story about both people and nature. The west portion of the trail follows a 44-acre furrow pond whose soil became part of the Atchafalaya Levee. Within the pond is an island bird rookery that can host more than 1,000 birds at certain times. In one place, we can interpret flood protection, engineering, water management, wildlife habitat, and the beauty of the basin. One landscape can tell the stories of engineering, stewardship, wildlife, and survival. BTNEP is helping us make that landscape speak directly to visitors. With 9 places where the landscape will speak, our partnership with BTNEP for 9 kiosks will provide QR code listening experiences at points along the trail. Visitors will hear what they are observing explained in French and English and authentic Cajun French. Local French-speaking residents will record the French version, preserving not only the information, but the voices, the pronunciation, and the expressions of this community. At each kiosk, the landscape will speak through the voices of people who know it best. That language component has become especially important to us. We will create a new home for Cajun French. After more than 30 years, French immersion is no longer available in our local schools. The campus can become a new intergenerational home for authentic Cajun French through conversation, music, storytelling, oral history, demonstration, and bilingual interpretation. We want children, adults, elders, and visitors to have a place where the language is heard and used. The language survives when people have a place to hear it, speak it, and pass the call. And our story does not stop at the edge of the campus. You can paddle into the heart of the basin, and we are extremely proud that Paddle the Estuary is going to take place in our hometown. The Upward Bell River Water Trail has 7 bird-named paddle trails totaling 62 miles through natural estuary water. These trails allow visitors to move directly from learning about the basin to experiencing it from the water. Paddling, birding, fishing, photography, and outdoor recreation extend the museum story into the living wetland. The museum can explain the basin. The paddle trails let visitors enter it. This is especially important because visitor interest in our area is also growing. We are not starting tourism from zero. More bed and breakfast accommodations are becoming available, and Troy Landry and the Swamp People series have already introduced national audiences to our waterways and way of life. The opportunity is to turn that recognition into a deeper visit, one that includes our culture, businesses, food, trails, wildlife, and people. Television may introduce visitors to the swamp. Our community can introduce them to everything behind it. That opportunity works because there's already a strong community of network behind it. The community is building this together. Our vision was sparked when our local tourists stopped to visit driftwood collector Adam Morales and his driftwood art became ill and passed away. His work has even been exhibited in the Smithsonian. Adam once said, "When it's just me, God, and nature, all by ourselves, with nothing but my boat and my seal beam light. In all the dark, I feel closer to God." His words capture the deep spiritual connection that many people in the community feel with the natural world that surrounds us. Now the museum is part of a larger network that already serves the Upward Bell River. The business community supports local growth and tourism. The volunteer fire department represents service and preparedness. Churches sustain faith, tradition, and belonging. And Veterans Park Recreation supports children, families, and community life. Together, these institutions show visitors what makes this place strong. The campus is not standing alone. It grows from a community already working together. That same spirit explains how our community approaches economic development. We don't wait for opportunity, we build it. Rural communities do not always have the same access to large industry dollars or broad tax structures. So our people have learned that we volunteer, raise funds, form partnerships, build projects, and create opportunities rather than waiting for someone else to bring them to it. The museum campus is another example of a community choosing to invest in its future. We are not waiting for growth to arrive. We are creating reasons for it to happen. And what we are building is about more than attracting visitors. It is also about attracting and keeping people. It's more than a workforce. It's a place to build a future. Workforce development is not only about filling positions. Families decide where they want to build their lives. Shreveport and Bell River often offer something deeper than numbers, a close-knit community, rich cultural traditions, faith, world-class fishing, and outdoor recreation, and a food culture shaped by generations of craftsmanship. Life moves with a purpose here. This is not just where you make a living. It can be where you build a family, grow a career, raise a family, and thrive. That quality of place matters for our young people too, especially when we connect home to the learning and careers. That's how the estuary becomes a STEM classroom. Our young people are surrounded by science every day. Water movement, wetlands, wildlife, weather, plants, habitats, and flood protection. The campus can turn that familiar environment into hands-on STEM learning in biology, ecology, water quality, mapping, monitoring, stewardship. We want students to see that important science is happening right in their own backyard. The basin is not only our heritage, it can also become our classroom. The future Discovery Cabin will give those experiences a home, providing learning opportunities we do not have today. The Discovery Cabin is intended to bring educational opportunities into our rural community that many students currently have to travel elsewhere to find or may never experience. It can support water testing, wildlife studies, experiment, visiting scientists, university and industry partnership, demonstrations, field trips, and family learning. The estuary becomes the classroom, and the Discovery Cabin becomes the learning laboratory. These experiences can also help young people imagine careers they may never have considered. From local knowledge to future career, our community already practices many skills that connect to the modern careers. Fishermen understand water, habitat, weather, and observation. Boat builders understand design and measurement. Firefighters use technology, safety systems, mapping, and rapid problem solving. We can help young people connect that local knowledge to science, skilled trades, industry and marine work, restoration, tourism, and other career pathways. Knowledge of home can become the pathway to the future. When young people can see a future here, the community becomes stronger, and that strengthens the economy too. Our culture is economic development. Cultural preservation and economic development can strengthen one another. Every additional hour or overnight stay can support restaurants, lodging, guides, outfitters, fuel stations, artists, musicians, food vendors, and other local businesses. The museum, trail, waterways, events, and community experiences can help turn visitors into longer stays and return visits. Our culture is not separate from our economy. It can be one of its strongest assets. But economic development is not only about visitor spending or job counts. Our quality of life is economic development. What we offer goes deeper than population counts, tax numbers, or job statistics. We offer a close-knit community filled with faith, cultural traditions, outdoor recreation, fishing, food, and a strong sense of belonging. Those qualities matter when workers and families decide where to live, whether to stay, and where to raise children. A strong workforce home is a place where people can make a living and build a life. This is why partnerships matter. It helps us connect quality of life, education, tourism, stewardship, and growth. Why partnership matters? All of our partners and those we are currently pursuing are helping us connect culture, estuary education, Cajun French, tourism, wildlife interpretation, and youth opportunity in one experience. The partnership makes environmental education something visitors can hear, see, walk through, paddle into, and remember. Together, we can protect the estuary while helping people understand the communities and cultures it has sustained. Partnership turns separate good ideas into one powerful regional story. We have talked about the vision. And now we want you to see the place and the people behind it. This is living in the heart of the Atchafalaya, and this is what we are preparing to share. Come experience the living heart of the Atchafalaya. We are building a campus where the Cajun past remains alive. Today's community can tell its own story, and the next generation can discover education, careers, and opportunities. We invite all to hear our language, feed our people, walk our landscape, paddle our waterways, and help us carry the culture forward. We are preserving the relationship between the people and the swamp and using that heritage to build the future. We are Louisiana storytellers like Louisiana Now. We are not waiting for opportunity. We are building. Ladies and gentlemen, for a small community of less than 5,000 people to take on and build a project like this, it takes a lot of special people. You've been introduced to Darrel and myself, but I think we have a few other board members and committee members that made the journey with us today. As I announce your name, please stand. This Nancy Russo, board member, retired educator and school principal, 30 years. Mr. Eugene Gino Blanchard, my brother-in-law, and also a board member, worked in the industrial electrical industry for over 50 years, project manager. Mr. Julius Mobile, worked in the industrial chemical industry for over 50 years. Retired as senior vice president for performance contractors out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And two committee people, Ms. Karen Saint-Germain. Still here. Karen Saint-Germain, retired state representative, and working on a few of our committees. And last but certainly not least, my wife Debbie Rivere, retired legal secretary for 32 years and works on 3 or 4 of our committees. And we are extremely excited to announce members of our newly formed advisory board, which expands that strength by bringing additional talent, expertise, passion, and voice from all our local and regional partners. They will help us broaden our reach, strengthen our program, and guide new opportunities in education, tourism, culture, workforce development, and community growth. And those people are Ms. Christy Landry from LA STEM Region 3 STEM Center. I don't know if she's here. Yeah. Okay, there you go. Dr. Bliss Broussard, Assistant Professor of Biological Sciences, Nicholls State University. Ms. Nikki Boudreau, BTNEP Education and Engagement Coordinator. Mr. Jared Wells, Senior Instructor of History and Public Coordinator in the Department of History and Geography, Nicholls State University. And Ms. Paula Rome, Energy Bayou Region Customer Service Manager. At this time, I'd like to thank you, BTNEP, for the opportunity to share our story and our vision. for preserving the people, culture, and waterways at the heart of the Atchafalaya for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Darrell.
What Darrell did say was he and his wife started a company called A La Carte, and they sent food, created Louisiana cuisine, and sent it and shipped it internationally. So that's his and his wife's contribution to this museum.
This has been good to us.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, I think we're good then.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, everybody. We want to remind everybody that we have lunch provided. It's going to be right back there. And if you need a vegan option, please see Nicole and she can get that option done for you. At this time, we're at a public comment section of our meeting. Do we have anyone who wants to make a public announcement? Chrissy?
Hi, so on November 12th and 13th, the Louisiana Science Teachers Association and the Louisiana Association of Teachers and Math will be hosting their annual conference in Baton Rouge at the Raising Cane's River Center. Early registration ends for that on September 25th. There are still opportunities for exhibitors to sign up for booths to be able to interact with teachers of science and math from across the state that attend this annual conference. In addition to that, the evening of November 12th at the LSU River Center for River Studies, there will be an award ceremony and a focus event on the 100th anniversary of the 1927 flood. And at that event, we're going to be hosting a lot of educational opportunities for participants to experience some activities around what happened during the flood of 1927. So if you have the opportunity to please sign up to do that as soon as possible. Additionally, if you do have connections with public educators in K through 12 schools, there is a quality science and math grant that's available right now for application. The deadline is September 6th, so please let them know that these funds are available. It's up to $2,000 for their classrooms. And if they need assistance with writing those grants or grabbing more information on that, they can reach out to me at buyson@gmail.com. I'm more than happy to help support their grant writing opportunities in the students.
All right, thank you, Christy. Any other announcements? Yes.
I'm Caroline Hassan. I'm with the Atchafalaya National Heritage Area. I did want to invite everybody on October 3rd, since gathering to November. We are hosting Atchafalaya National Heritage Area Day in Henderson, a little outside the estuary, but we have a grant with BTNEP that's going to kind of expand the tidal trail out there. Also, BTNEP will be there, and it's just going to be a celebration of any and all things Atchafalaya heritage. A lot of what Darrell talked about. There will be free swamp tours, delicious food, music that Clinton's helping us out with. So that'll be October 3rd from 10 to 3 at Mickey's Swamp Fishing.
Thank you. Now they're gonna have a Zydeco band and a Cajun band. So Zydeco band is gonna be a Chubby Carrier, take a lot of video around, and then it looks like we're gonna have Jimmy Burley friends that'll be playing in the Cajun sound. I'm waiting for confirmation here today. So, any other comments, questions, announcements? Yes.
Sure, we want to make the announcement. Labor Day weekend is the Louisiana Sugar Petroleum Festival, the oldest state garden harvest festival. So we'd like to invite all of you to attend. And Charlie's the chairman and president.
Yeah, that's always a good time. Okay.
Just wanted to remind you one more time before you leave that the sponsorships are available today. If you want to sign up for this, you don't have to give the check today, but you can sign up and commit to that. And Nicole and Michaela and Amelia are ready to take your names. Thanks.
Thanks, Gary. Anything else? Going once, twice? Okay. I want to remind everybody that our next meeting is going to be in New Roads at the Pointer Center on November 5th. So please mark your calendar for that, November 5th. 6 times long, we'll get together as a group. And then with that, so I make a motion to adjourn. Ron Roberts, the motion. Got it. All right, we are adjourned, so please stick with us for lunch.